President Cyril Ramaphosa has acknowledged that while there is still progress to be made, government has made strides in advancing human rights. He says that since the dawn of democracy, government has shown its commitment to democracy, the rule of law, and to protect the rights of humans. Speaking at the National Conference on 30 Years of Human Rights in Ekurhuleni, Ramaphosa outlined legislation that has been passed in support of the Constitution. We now leave you with the full address by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Good night.
Minister of Justice, we now thank for having had the vision and the money, I guess, to convene this conference. When he first mooted the idea of this conference, I thought it was just going to be a get-together of some 50 people or so. I approached this hall and I said, "How many people are here?" He said, "More than 1,000. I asked him, "Do you have such a conference?" He says he has. So we thank him and his department for convening this conference. Speaker Ms. Mapisa Ngakula, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Amos Masondo, Chief Justice of our Constitutional Court, Justice Raymond Zondo, Constitutional Court justices who are here present, judge presidents, and members of the judiciary, representative of constitutional bodies enshrined in Chapter 9 of our Constitution, traditional leaders who are here present, and I guess I did say ministers and deputy ministers as well, and also importantly representatives of international bodies. I'm out to be with us at this very important conference. I saw former ministers who are here as well, and former premiers who are here present, and current serving premiers, and officials of government, guests, and ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed for me an honor to be part of this conference, which is a reflection on 30 years of the and respect for human rights in our country. The adoption of our Constitution with the Constitutional Assembly on the 8th of May in 1996 was a great moment in our struggle. As I said at the time, the day our country and our people came of age, I referred to the adoption of our Constitution as a nation. We were not even a nation. We didn't even have a birth certificate. The Constitution, nation, and we were then given a birth certificate. On that occasion, we proclaimed to the world a society that is committed to democracy, to the rule of law, and to the protection of human rights. Came to be as a result of great many sacrifices by many people in our country and in many other countries. Many people sacrifice a great deal. Countries around the world, some being arrested for supporting our struggle, some being killed and maimed for. And today, those people, country who suffered, maiming, being banished, we honor them and we thank them for the struggles that they waged to build this nation. Before the advent of democracy, our country was defined by racism, segregation, and discrimination. The country's black majority were many of their rights, such as their land, their assets, and their basic human rights. Apartheid tore the social fabric of our communities apart as it violated and degraded the basic humanity of many of our people through humiliation and oppression. Families were broken up as heads of households had to leave their families and children behind to work in the mines or to move to towns to earn a livelihood. And were denied the right of having the present or both parents as the parents working far away. And that was a violation of the United Nations Convention on and customary legal systems were upended. They were suppressed and dismissed as harmful, backwards, uncivilized, and savage. Given all these destructive effects, the negation and the rights of millions of people, we can be justifiably proud of how far we have come in advancing our constitutional human rights-based order past 30 years. As the former chairperson of the Constitutional Assembly that steered the drafting of the Constitution of our country, it is for me a privilege to be here to reflect on human rights in our country. Matthew Sposa, whom I saw earlier, was one of those who participated, and many others today. Constitution. Since 1994, we have prioritized the advancement and the fulfillment as a core of a democratic order. Human rights are rights that all human beings should have. Human rights embody the key values of our society, such as equality, dignity, and fairness, and they also define our nationhood. The Chief Justice, in presenting his, took us back to the really opening chapter of our Constitution, which sets out the words that define us. It is this nationhood that was built arising from our Constitution and clearly articulated by the rights that are embedded in there. Should manifest themselves through protection for vulnerable, freedom of speech and expression, religious freedom, whoever you want to love, and other rights of people. Certainly, there have been challenges and shortcomings over the past 30 years, and we have a long way to go towards completely fulfilling the promise that is set out in our Constitution. And Chief Justice, you're absolutely right. It would have been apt for the three arms of the state to present a report on how far we have gone in the past to advance the rights of ordinary South Africans. but in a way you have done so in outlining to us how the judiciary, the defender of the rights that are embedded in our Constitution, has gone about its and taking a leaf from what you outlined. I will also touch on some of the areas that the government has embarked upon to advance these important rights that our people have. That said, we should not shy away from the immense progress that we have made. The democratic state, largely to enact various pieces promote human rights among people. Among those, we have put in place the Act, which gives effect of the Constitution, the Promotion of Administrative Justice Act to Section 33, and the Promotion of Equality and Promotion and Prevention, of Unfair Discrimination Act, which gives to give effect to Section 9(2) of the Constitution relating to the measures previously disadvantaged people in our country. We passed the Employment Equity Act. We also passed the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act and other such legislation to full equality when it comes to opportunities, to the economy, and many other areas that affect the lives of. And in this, I must enjoin our legislature. The government, having initiated these legislative pieces, as the Speaker said earlier, that has led the process of enacting those laws. Our constitutional order is premised not only on a racial society, but also a non-sexist society. Over the past 30 years, there have been significant changes in the position of women across society. You, Speaker, spoke about so eloquently in your address. Today, there are both public and private sectors, something that was unheard of in the past, meaning that the rights of women, of black people in general, were so seriously suppressed in our country. In the new dispensation, that is no longer the case, as we are advancing and protecting the rights of women in our country. We have passed a broad to protect women from all forms of abuse and to advance their rights as well. These include laws around domestic violence, sexual abuse, sexual harassment, and workplace discrimination. The abuse of women, of a basic right that the women of our country should enjoy and should have. Later this month, on Human Rights Day, we will commemorate the Sharpeville massacre, where unarmed protesters against the past laws of the day were mercilessly killed by the apartheid regime. In a form of influx control, and in South Africa today, every citizen enjoys the right to free movement. To promote accountability and responsiveness, we have established various institutions to strengthen democracy in. And these include institutions such as the Human Rights Commission, the Office of the Public Protector, the Commission for Gender Equality, and others. The judiciary, in the end, is the ultimate protector and defender of the human rights set out in our Constitution. And the establishment of the Constitutional Court, as you said, Chief Justice, as the defender of anyone who, in terms of Section 38, feels that their right has been infringed, ushered in a new era of accountability and respect for dignity. Before the advent of democracy, our country was a pariah state that was infamous for violating the basic rights of the majority of its citizens. We frankly lived in a country where racial discrimination was at the core. Today, our country is revered as a country that upholds, protects, advances the basic rights of the people who live in South Africa, following our country's admission as a fully fledged member of the Community of Nations. The democratic state has signed, ratified, and acceded to various international treaties. The many treaties we have signed and ratified and acceded to, with economic, social, and cultural rights and the elimination of racial discrimination and all forms of discrimination against women as well. They include conventions, conventions against torture and other cruel, inhuman, degrading treatment. They also include conventions that protect the rights of working people. Alongside our Constitution, these treaties bear to the fact that our democratic government is irrevocable to protect, to promote, and to fulfill the rights of our Constitution. It is a joy to us that we have a judiciary that is irrevocably committed to defend, to protect the basic human rights of our people. And we have a legislature that is also irrevocably committed to pass laws that will always seek to advance the rights of South Africans without degrading them. A legislature of the vulnerable, the side of those whose rights needs to be advanced. Not only are we committed to the rights of all in our country, we are also committed to global peace and will fight all forms of oppression and the violation of the rights that many other people around the world also ought to enjoy. In January 2024, South Africa appeared before the International Court of Justice as an applicant against the State of Israel on the grounds that, through its conduct in Gaza, Israel violated the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. At the heart of South Africa's case is the blatant violation of the human rights of Palestinians by the State of Israel. Having noted that the Genocide Convention treaty that was adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations on the 9th of December in 1948 an act which signified the international community's commitment to the respect of human rights of all, we felt, as South Africa, duty-bound to support the cause of the Palestinians for nationhood, also to have their basic human rights protected, respected, and advanced. In doing this, we remembered the efforts and the sacrifices that were made by many people around the world, how South Africans were engaged in their own struggle to have their human rights respected, protected, and advanced, felt that they should join issue with us. And these were people who had never even come to South Africa, visited South Africa at all. But they were moved by the human spirit to support our quest for human rights. And it is this that too has motivated us to support the people of Palestine. And this we do following the words of Nelson Mandela, who said, "Our own freedom, a freedom that was really about human rights, will never be complete until the freedom of the Palestinians is achieved." The International Court of Justice ordered several provisional measures, including that it was within its power to prevent the commission of all acts within the scope of Article 2 of the Genocide Convention. The killing or causing serious bodily harm or mental harm to Palestinians in Gaza. While the court still has to hear South Africa's main application, the provisional measures that it ordered has reaffirmed the centrality and the responsibility we all carry for the protection of the rights of all, and to advancing the human rights of people and the world should motivate us to address the challenges that still face basic human rights recognized and advanced. To quote Madiba's words, "Overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity, it is an act of justice. A fundamental right, the right to dignity and the right to a decent life." The social protection measures we have put in place to lift our people out of poverty have made a tremendous difference over the past 30 years. However, much more still needs to be done. The social protection measures we have introduced do go far beyond the provisions of grants for the elderly, the children, people with disabilities, as well as military veterans, people who fought for the freedom that we now enjoy. It goes beyond the work of the Unemployment Insurance Fund, which provides income support for unemployed workers, fund which supports those. Our social protection measures include spending up to 60% of our country's budget expended on healthcare services, free water, fee-free schools, public housing, school nutrition, early childhood development, and expanded financial support. These measures contributed significantly to fulfilling the most basic human right of all, right to dignity. Certainly, we know that social protection is no substitute for decent work. It is our role as government, working in partnership with business, with labor and civil society, to create an enabling environment for more jobs and opportunities to be created, allowing our people to fulfill their potential and to improve their lives. We also know that our progress continues to be hindered by delays on the part of government entities in fulfilling their constitutional obligations. We continue to be plagued by poor service delivery, especially in our municipalities. Corruption deprives citizens of the fulfillment of their rights. While we are rightfully proud of how far our constitutional rights-based order has come, we know that much more still needs to be done to fulfill the promise of the full enjoyment of the basic rights of all our people. The creation of employment for our people and promoting the rights that are enshrined in our Constitution are necessary to improve lives and to lift millions out of poverty and despair. We are therefore duty-bound, and not just as government, but as all of us who have a stake in the future progress and prosperity of this great country, to work harder, sparing neither strength to fulfill the basic rights of our people. The South Africa of today is vastly different from the place that it was 30 years ago. Freedoms that were many, including the heroes who lost their lives at Sharpeville, many South Africans today. We accept that much more still needs to be done, as I've said, to give full fulfillment. We've expanded access to basic services and education, improved our and provided opportunities where there once were none. I'm very pleased, Chief Justice, that you also referred to what the court did, health outcomes or the health position of many of our people. When the court took the decision on HIV/AIDS, on the distribution of the medication, the court was contributing to the advancement of the rights that are enshrined in our Constitution. And for that reason, we are immensely grateful to have a judiciary that is independent, judiciary that should know, Chief Justice said, will never get a call from the President or from any minister about any case. I may call you about other things, like to discuss the independence, the full independence of the judiciary and the support you should get. All this progress has been anchored in our deep and abiding commitment to the protection and advancement of human rights as part of this Constitution, this birth certificate of our nation, will continue to be our lodestar as we work even harder. Our people expect and our people deserve. As we look ahead, as you said we should, Chief Justice, we need to determine what steps must be taken to give greater meaning to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. we need to continue to contribute towards building a culture of human rights, not only in our country, but globally as well, which is the country emerging from such a bitter past. Minister, you said, gathered here are human rights, and I wondered whether that was so or not, that there are also enemies. And I'm yet to see any enemy of basic human rights. And if there is an enemy of basic human rights, I would ask them to raise their hands now, because I want the. I wish this conference all the best in its deliberations. It is our expectation that it will come up with tangible that will further the respect for and the promotion of our hard-won human rights. And as I said, journey to traverse. We are only 30 years old, having struggled for freedom and human rights after 342 years. Our journey is still a long one, but I'm glad that we have many fellow travelers who will make sure that indeed we do give respect to human rights for all our people. Thank you very much.